Hey everyone, Patrick here with a quick introduction for our new Patreon preview. It's about 10 minutes long, and if you want the full episode, you can always check it out at patreon.com/Historia Canadiana for about $3 a month, and you can get access to all our episodes there. And as always, if you want to check it out, also for $1 a month, and just support us there, that is great. If you also want to support the show through PayPal as a kind of donation system, that's cool too. Anything helps. Without further ado, I'll let you in on this little taste of one of our latest Patreon episodes. And honestly, I think it's one of our best ones yet. So I hope you enjoy, and don't forget to leave a review on iTunes, share the show to your friends. You know, yeah, I think that's pretty much all. Anyway, enjoy the show.
Greetings and salutations, friends. Your boy is back to provide another rousing episode of Pop Canada. Today we are doing a cultural overview of the event known as the Klondike Gold Rush. With me today, as always, is the man who will soon be our demonic overlord. Praise be unto him, Patrick. Welcome, Overlord.
Hello, minion of mine. First among many. My right hand of evil, I guess? Sure, let's go with that.
Questionable podcast? That's sort of good. Who knows?
Yeah? Oh, yeah. Until proven otherwise, yes, it is the best podcast out there, and we're on our way to winning all the awards.
Do they have awards for podcasts?
I think so, yeah. I think there are, like, podcast awards of various types. I'd have to look into it.
God, gonna have to get a suit now. Anyway, so today, folks, we're going to be talking about this one event that has sort of become like ingrained in the world of pop culture that everybody goes back to, and that's the Klondike Gold Rush. It is freaky, like how many people know of the idea of a gold rush and how this one usually ends up being one of the first to come to mind.
Yeah, which is kind of surprising considering how late, I guess, it came in the game in the grand scheme of things of gold rushes.
Oh yeah, well we can trace gold rushes all the way back to like the Roman Empire had some.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But you're right. This is kind of like that. The California gold rush is a big one also. It's like, again, there's thousands of years of history. And for some reason, it's the last ones that we kind of remember. Maybe because they're best recorded. I don't know. But I guess we'll see about it.
Well, there are still some going on today. But again, that's that sort of blood money type stuff that's going on in South America and Africa.
Which is not the topic for today because we are not qualified to talk about that in any way, shape, or form.
No. But even then, like we say, this is one of the later ones. So it happened from 1896 to 1899. Gold was discovered in the Klondike region of the Yukon, which actually got its name because prospectors didn't want to try and pronounce the actual name of the region that the Han First Nations people were telling them.
That sounds about right. Yep.
Yeah. Yep, they were forcibly moved into reserve because of this gold rush, and then many of them died because of the gold rush. So
awesome. That's just imperialism in a nutshell. Hey, we found some riches. Move.
Woohoo. So,
do you know what the original name of the region was, by the way?
I was looking at it. Here it is. So it was, I'm going to be butchering the pronunciation. It's Klondike.
Okay.
I don't know how the First Nations would pronounce it, but it is spelled TR''ONDE with the two dots above it, then K.
Oh, okay. I don't understand how it would be that complicated. Like, even with slight variation, it's not like it would be that much more complicated, I feel, than Klondike.
Partner, how much time do you want to spend saying these First Nations words, these Klondikes? Klondike. Now that just rolls off the tongue.
Point taken, I guess. Yep. Let's just move right along from that.
Yeah. So it is estimated around over 100,000 prospectors would migrate through into the Yukon territory after the news reached the USA, of course. Very few became wealthy, but now the event has sort of been immortalized as this great adventure, the great spirit of ingenuity.
Yeah,
just to give a little bit more of the geography of what's going on. A lot of time they wouldn't actually go through Canada. They would come up into Skagway, Alaska, and then take what was known as most often the Chilkoot Trail or the White Pass Trail to the Yukon River, and then they would go down to the Klondike. The main city, being Dawson City, became famous.
Yep.
And of course, things known as boom towns would be popping up all over the place.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned that a lot of a lot of these 100,000 prospectors came up after news reached the US. Was it just not that big a thing in Canada before then? Or was it just you're talking on a smaller scale and then because of the population density of the US, it just exploded after?
I think it's most of the population density. Even
Okay.
now, the Yukon is maximum 36,000 people.
Yeah.
And then you have 100,000 prospectors. So I think it really is just a matter, of course, of the news traveling and then hitting certain places more than anything else.
Probably. Yeah, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. And so we're going to go over a brief overview of some of the more commonly known depictions and ways that the word Klondike has come into the American vernacular. And then we're going to talk about these sort of issues. The first one, I didn't put it in the notes, but it just came to me. Hey, Patrick, what would you do for a Klondike bar?
I was trying to remember, right, as you were talking, like, I know there's a suite somewhere. I know it. And I couldn't, I was like, racking my brains about it.
We're missing something big. We were missing a big pop culture reference of the Klondike. And then I was like, motherfucker. motherfucking ice cream bar or something.
Yeah, it's a chocolate bar, an ice cream bar. I don't remember. Yeah, it makes
cream
sandwich. Ice cream. There you go. Yeah, of course, because it's up north. So of course it would be an ice cream sandwich.
Yeah, and then other famous. Oh, so good. Other famous depictions. There was a Charlie Chaplin movie, The Gold Rush, from the silent comedy era. The Gold Rush is actually it was actually the highest grossing silent comedy of all time.
Yeah. Have you ever seen it?
I've seen scenes. Of course, the most famous one, eating the shoe.
Yeah, totally.
Is that where that comes from? Like the whole like joke or idea of like eating a shoe?
Yes and no, because Chaplin, right, you mentioned it here within the Klondike Gold Rush episode, which was a huge inspiration for the Gold Rush, but he was also inspired by the tragedy known as the Donner Party expedition. Which, for those of you who don't know, for listeners who don't know, was like the famous expedition which kind of turned to cannibalism after the people in the expedition got lost and ran out of food. And so, and one of the things that on top of cannibalism was eating leather, right? And that's where that joke comes from, right? Okay. So it kind of shows Chaplin's awareness of history, right? Mm-hmm. And first of all, by the way, I could talk about Chaplin all day long. I think he's a genius.
Yep, per usual.
And it's kind of one of those things. His goal was to kind of blur the lines between tragedy and comedy. And this was one of his ways of doing it with that shoe eating of like, yeah, you're starving. And it definitely shows the horror of certain elements, but it's done in such a way that you're like, you can't help but laughing because it's so ridiculous in the way that he does it. And you see that in all Charlie Chaplin films, right? His better known one, I think, in modern times is exactly that, the modern times.
Okay.
Which is a whole thing about like industrialism and working on like the well, come at that assembly lines.
Okay.
Right. You know that famous scene of Chaplin going through the gears and all that, and kind of getting stuck in the
so.
Right. That's from that movie, right?
Okay.
But anyway, like, what an awesome guy.
Yeah. So, speaking on this film, he sort of made. For those who don't know, Charlie Chaplin made a film called The Gold Rush, and it was basically about him working with another prospector trying to take part and become this sort of great prospector, you know, as basically representing like 90% of the people who went north trying to find their riches and gold. Next we have the author known as Jack London, who was a prospector in the Klondike Gold Rush. He wrote such famous books as Call of the Wild and White Fang. They're about dogs. No, neither. I saw the movie for Call of the Wild, the recent one with Harrison Ford.
Oh yeah, how was that?
It was good.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
It was fine.
I know they CGI'd the dog. Like it was a
fully CGI dog.
Yeah, it was like a mocapped person. It was a person walking around and they CGI'd a dog on top of him.
Yep.
I was like, that sounds bizarrely complicated. Like, what are you even doing?
And it did not look good. Right.
I was just gonna ask, like, was it worth it in the end?
Yeah.
Like, you could have just taken a regular dog. You can train them. We've done it for years. Anyway.
I mean, we've also done CGI animals better. Like the Chronicles of Narnia, Aslan still looks good.
Right. But to be fair, like Aslan doesn't show up for most of the movie.
Yeah.
Like he's not he is a central character, but you could like spare the budget and stretch it out. I have a feeling that dog was there the entire movie, even though I've never seen it.
So getting back to Jack London. Jack London is one of the most commercially successful authors. He was actually one of the first American authors to become an international celebrity and earn a large fortune from writing. Because
Really?
historically being a writer isn't known to being a super lucrative job. You get enough to make by, but you're never, and you might be a little celebrity, but you usually never make enough to be like super rich, you know, except for like the odd J.K. Rowling of the world.
Yeah, for sure.
Who we don't like.
No,
Down.
no, that's our official stance. Pop Canada's official stance is
On J.K.
no
Rowling.
to J.K. Rowling.
So Jack London was one of the first people to make it big as an author, which is kind of cool.